We exchanged some conversation. All I can remember is maybe a couple of minutes went by, and then he said, Madam, how soon can you get on a plane to go to New Orleans? I said, as an actor always says, anytime. You never refuse. He says, well, we'll have you in a plane in about 2 hours.
I got a call to go to a hotel, I think was the Algonquin in New York City, I'm not quite sure. And who do I meet but Guy Hamilton? And he said to me, what kind of weapon would you like to have? I knew right then and there I had it. And I'd say, well, you know, you've used so many guns and many knives. Give me something unusual like a hook.
For many black actors, the film proves to be a great showcase, though they are mainly cast as villains.
It's a Bond movie, so you know Bond is going to win. If the villain is black, you know he's going to lose because the villain is going to lose. So along the way, I thought maybe we can have some other people to make fun of.
Toby, I got me a regular Ben-Hur down here. That kind of dialogue you can't miss, you know.
What are you? Some kind of doomsday machine, boy?
The best dialogue writer I've ever seen.
Now, Clifton James, who came from New York and doesn't remotely have a Southern accent, came down. He had a wonderful gut, you know.
I wore padding. I wore an umpire suit because they're all very proud of their stomachs, you know.
With the cast in place, shooting begins in earnest along the Louisiana bayous.
Quiet everywhere, please.
The first sequence that I watched was the stunt sequence where the boat, the two boats came across the bayous and went right through the wedding party and then down the other side.
One boat and one boat only comes up the lawn. There is another one that goes round there. It doesn't really matter which one you look at, including both. This end is very safe. We have tested it. It is sometimes interesting, and I think you might enjoy that, what happens down that end.
First stuntman got into the boat and he's kind of zooming around, and suddenly there's a most enormous crash.
The guy crashed into this tree. They called in the paramedics.
I'm okay. I'm okay. Set me down. It's okay.
So now we're now going to try and do the stunt again. And action, up comes the boat, straight over, right through the wedding. And I said, I bet it's going to hit that tree. It hit it fair and square, I can't tell you. Tore another big hole in the side.
In all the practice runs, the boat's always gone off to the left. I hit that tree just dead center. I mean, the boat went absolutely perfectly straight all the way across that lawn, which it never has done before.
Everybody's now very worried, and Guy Hamilton said, don't think we should do any more, you know, not today. We'll try tomorrow.
But the filming cannot continue with the wedding scene.
The bayou's flooded. Everything's underwater. All the chairs are floating.
For the director and the producers, setbacks seem to be a daily occurrence.
There was a cold wind blowing, and I could feel this ache, and I went into my Winnebago, and I lay down. My knees came up to my chin, and Derek Cracknell, the first assistant, came in and said, Rog, when you... Oh, God. He said, I better call a doctor.
With the film's star in the hospital with kidney stones and accidents mounting, members of the crew worry that the film is under some kind of voodoo curse. As the production crew copes with setbacks, some of the cast explore the power of the tarot.
I knew nothing about tarot, and so I went to Bourbon Street where they had tarot card readers, and I took all my rings and wedding rings and anything off that would give any clues away. And the tarot card reader looked me in the eyes and in the cards and basically told me I was going to be married 3 times. So since I'd only just got married for the first time, this was a little bit of a shock, you can imagine. I have to admit that it did affect some of my decisions later on in life.
On November the 12th, 1972, the production crew flies from New Orleans to the exotic North Shore of Jamaica with over 2 tons of film equipment.
Oh, it was very exotic. It was absolutely amazing. I've never seen anywhere so beautiful in my whole life as this hotel called the Sans-Souci.
It was wonderful. I spent every morning swimming in that pool, meeting Roger every morning before we went to work.
Well, I must say it's fantastic to be in Jamaica in the winter, in the sun when it's so cold and foggy in London. And to be playing a part in a James Bond film, which demands all that action, is something I'm not used to at all.
And the service. We had housekeepers, cooks, and maids who would knock on your door and say, "Madam, what would you like to have for breakfast this morning?"
And I just remember the music and the warmth and the beautiful beaches. It was just so exotic and glorious.
But the voodoo curse from Louisiana seems to follow the film crew to Jamaica.
There was this voodoo witch doctor who would give me a reading. They were going to film it. I don't know what happened to that film, but...
What is gathering? Hallelujah. Mr. Moore, I'm about to start what is known as a psychic reading for you. Is that okay, sir?
It's fine with me.
Yeah.
I hope it is afterwards. Tarot cards are being turned over and said that I was going to have a son.
You are going to have a son, sir. There's going to be a son in your life.
Well, apparently, he was conceived there. So I don't know whether the witch doctor had anything to do with it.
And I think you were born to be what is termed a humanitarian. You will become one of our great Buddha.
Finally, I found something in life that's a little more important than thinking of yourself. Not a little more important, a lot more important.
On November the 30th, 1972, filmmakers begin shooting one of the movie's signature sequences.
We bought a London bus, very, very cheap. We actually took a bus driver who was one of the principal instructors at London Passenger Transport.
And they said, well, what we actually want you to do is to skid a bus round on a 30-foot road.
You feel the first time you're doing it that it's going to tip over, but they don't tip over.
And I, of course, was involved in some of the stunts myself, which, in retrospect, was kind of foolish. I was in that bus when it spun around and, it could have been anyone.
She was on the bus every time I skidded it.
When I was in the back of that bus, I just was dying.
And then we had all these motorcycles coming in, cars zooming into the sugarcane and zooming into the sea. Well, we had to put a ramp into on the kind of the parapet into the sea. I remember we had to move all this coral, and of course it went slightly awry, and of course the poor fellow landed into the coral that we hadn't cleared because he hadn't hit the right spot. We only did it once, so it wasn't a question of redoing it.
The stuntman is not badly hurt, but the sequence is hardly over yet.
And to finish the sequence...
What can we do with that? Oh, I know, knock the top off because there's a low bridge.
Oh, I got a bit sceptical about that one because I've never actually seen a bus go under a bridge and take the roof completely off. It generally stops halfway.
I said, have they done this before? And they said no.
When it all set up, we went up about 300 or 400 yards up the road.
And I said, well, how do they know it's going to work? And they said they don't.
And they told me roughly what speed it would take, about 40 miles an hour.
And I remember my heart was pumping.
Then they just said action, and away we went.
And then, of course, I felt very proud to have been in that bus.
Filming continues off the roads and into the swamps.
Ross Kananga was the name of the man in real life who owned this crocodile farm. Had an interesting backstory.
Ross Kananga, from what I understand, was a Seminole Indian.
His father was put on an alligator show, croc show, and Ross, as a kid, used to put his head in the mouth of the alligator, and one day the croc went junk, and he was in there for 20 minutes before the croc relaxed and let him out.
And he had seen his father be eaten alive by crocodiles.
Ross knew which one. He says, that one got my dad.
And decided to take over the family business.
They had 1,500 of these creatures.
Ross Kananga at one time had a lion, a pet lion that used to patrol the place. And they got to the lion.
These things are really lethal, alligators and crocodiles.
And then they stuck me on this island, little tiny island.
This was a major production number because all the crocs had to be taken out
And they had these fake crocodiles there, and they were made of foam rubber, and they looked pretty real.
And I was stuck on there while Teehee throws out bits of chicken to attract the alligators.
They were shooting the sequence, and this mechanical arm was very hard to work.
I'm messing with this hook, trying to get it to work right. And I dropped a couple of pieces on the side there.
I thought it was a rather smart idea when we were doing wardrobe before we started the film. I said, well, why don't I have crocodile shoes?
Do you think this is a good idea, Guy?
I think it's a beautiful idea.
And all of a sudden, one of the fake crocodiles starts moving straight for Roger and Julius.
Nasty beady eyes going like this.
And this thing is coming straight for Roger. Well, guns shots went off. Ross Kananga himself threw himself in.
Once they see some white flesh and they're swimming, they can leap 20, 30 feet.
Everyone went crazy.
What a mistake. I had the skin of one of their cousins. They were out to get me.
After a few last-minute shots, the first unit departs for London on December the 19th and resumes shooting at Pinewood Studios, where more creatures are required.
I think the gentleman who was tied up to the post didn't like snakes.
And the snake is going there, and he was looking at the snake, and they said, right, okay, cut. Okay, you can relax now. And he had fainted.
So I had just been told this story, and now I come in to do a scene with a snake. The man who was holding the snake in my sequence was a dancer, and he wasn't real happy about holding the real snake either. But by the second or third day, you know, he was feeling a little more comfortable, and between takes, he put the snake in the other hand. Of course, the snake turned around and bit him. Well, this guy screamed, dropped the snake, went running out of the place. Everyone went running after him to make sure that he was okay, because